Before I even get into this, let me say one thing. Drake has officially lost the plot. The man is out here making career choices that feel less like strategy and more like self-sabotage. And tonight's fiasco proves it.
Bella, do you bite your nails?
Yeah, I do. What the
It's
hell?
disgusting.
I
Do you know the last time I saw
tried-
you had a manicure?
I know. I tried to get them done before today, but I had a gambling stream last night.
Watching courtside Karen Cupcake, Drake right now feels unreal. I'm not even doing the usual warm-up because what just went down between Drake and Bobbi Althoff left me straight speechless.
People think you got a procedure done.
Really?
You know?
Procedure?
Yeah, an ab one.
Really?
Yeah, did you do that?
No.
Is that a thing?
I'm sure it is.
Why do you know that?
Because people do it all the time?
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
You've never done that?
No.
Okay.
People also say that I got a BBL, right? They call me BBL Drizzy, so
Oh, that's true. Did
I
you?
don't know if my wagon looked crazy when I walked in here, but
This mess wasn't just a casual flop. It was a train wreck dressed up as an interview. And trust me, it's got the whole internet clowning. Drake really sat there for over an hour in the most brain-melting audio disaster I've heard in ages and called it content. I swear, it felt like punishment just listening to it. The man thought he was doing something iconic by teaming up with Bobbi Althoff instead of an actual journalist, a respected host, or even someone who knows the culture. Nope. He went the easy route, and now he's paying the price big time. The ball was already on the floor, but Drake managed to dig even lower, and it backfired ugly. This wasn't a flex, this wasn't clever. This was a bad look that exposed how desperate he is to control the conversation. And you better believe I'm breaking it all down. Every cringy second, every shady undertone, and exactly what this means not just for Drake, but for rap media as a whole. This right here could shift how people look at celebrity journalism forever. And Drake might be the one who ruined it for himself. And let me keep it all the way real with you. This was painful to sit through. The only reason I even pressed play was because I was grinding on 2K, trying to level up my player, and I needed some noise in the background. That's it. I didn't expect art, but I also didn't expect to be tortured with one of the most boring, dragged-out interviews I've ever heard in my life. Picture this. You're trying to catch a vibe, maybe zone out, and instead you're getting trapped in an hour-long swamp of dry conversation that could put anybody to sleep. That's exactly what this was. Drake and Bobbi managed to suck the life out of the room without even trying, and it almost felt disrespectful to the audience that tuned in expecting anything worthwhile. Now, before I even go further, I want you to really think about the simplest way to describe this whole disaster. Thankfully, Justin Hunt, the legend himself, nailed it perfectly. He put the thought into words that the rest of us were struggling to say out loud, and I gotta bring it here because it sums this up better than I ever could. And yes, your eyes are not deceiving you. Drake was really out here talking about milk in this interview. Let that sink in. At the exact moment, his career feels more contested than ever before. Instead of addressing the heat, the pressure, or even the critics coming for his crown, he's out here locked in a dull convo about dairy products. And who's he doing this with? Bobbi Althoff, a woman who embodies the exact Karen energy that Drake always seems to orbit around, as if he's low-key obsessed with that archetype. It's wild. Of all the platforms, of all the voices he could have given time to, he sat across from someone who looked like the physical meme of everything his haters clown him for. That alone tells you this wasn't about depth or culture, it was about optics. And it flopped hard. Now, I'm not gonna fully crash out and drag this down the hip-hop journalism rabbit hole. I'll leave that essay to Elliott Wilson. But what I will say is this. As we break down this dumpster fire, keep this milk moment in your head. It's not random. It's the perfect symbol of how hollow this whole interview was. Because the point of an interview is simple. Two people coming together to share knowledge, reveal truths, or at least give us something to chew on. Instead, Drake gave us skim milk when the world was hungry for steak. Let's really break this down. Drake has been cosplaying a character for over 15 years. First an actor, then a rapper, now a chameleon who reinvents himself whenever the heat gets too real. Remember the last time he actually sat down with respected hip-hop journalists like Elliott Wilson and B. Miller? He flexed about studying rap battles for a living, as if he was some student of the game. But fast forward to today, and what are we left with? A man who talks about milk and cup sizes in interviews instead of music, legacy, or the culture that built him. So here's the question. Why should we take anything he says seriously when his track record shows he's been selling illusions from day one? He's always been playing a role, always been adjusting the mask, and this time the cracks are showing clearer than ever. But there was one thing that stood out in this circus. When Drake decided to take a jab at music journalism itself, he low-key tried to clown the entire hip-hop press. saying this new wave of streamers, podcasters, and so-called cool hangout personalities are the future, while dismissing the OGs who built the space. That right there is the most revealing part of the whole interview. Drake doesn't respect the culture. He wants to replace it with vibes and casual chats that protect his ego. And that's a dangerous game. Now let me hit you with the exact words that made my jaw drop. Drake said, and I quote, "The goal is not to be an unattainable D-head for your whole life and only speak to Zane Lowe while he asks the more curated questions." Think about that. He basically just dismissed the entire tradition of thoughtful interviews with actual music journalists who know what they're talking about. And instead, what's his big vision? Forget Zane Lowe, forget Elliott Wilson, forget anyone serious. Drake wants to kick it with XQC, Aiden Ross, and the Streamer Squad. He's basically saying that the future of understanding Drake isn't about deep dives, context, or insight. It's about chilling with internet personalities who'll let him vibe, joke, and never press him on anything real. That's the level we're at now. Drake openly clowning real journalism while cozying up to Twitch stars like it's a cultural upgrade. And here's where it gets twisted. Because if we actually take Drake's words seriously for even a second and give him the credit he thinks he deserves, then his whole game plan becomes clear. He flat out said that these moments he's creating with Bobbi are better than sitting down with Joe Budden, Charlemagne, or Elliott Wilson. Imagine that. He's openly ranking a watered-down, awkward podcast vibe above conversations with the very voices who shaped hip-hop commentary. But here's the kicker. This is where I need you to lock in. Because what you're hearing here is the real Drake talking. No filter, no character, no PR polish. This is the man behind the music, and based on his own words, this is who he truly is. Not a student of rap battles, not someone invested in hip-hop's history, but a celebrity who'd rather chat about milk and vibes than engage with the culture that crowned him. So if this is his truth, then we've got to face it. Drake doesn't want to be challenged, doesn't want to be analyzed, and sure as hell doesn't want to be held accountable. He wants to be comfortable. And that comfort is exposing just how disconnected he really is. Drake really sat there talking about studying types of milk. And honestly, I can't even spin that into a joke. It's beyond cringe. It's just flat out bizarre. But what makes it even wilder is that in between this dairy obsession, Drake kept peeling back layers of who he really is. And none of it was flattering. Because while he's rambling about milk, you start to notice a pattern. Every single thing he says, every offhand comment, every weird tangent somehow circles back to one person. Kendrick Lamar. It's like Kendrick's name is living rent-free in his mind. No matter what topic pops up, Drake can't resist tying it back to the energy, the shade, or the dominance of "not like us." And that's the truth he can't escape. He tries to act unbothered, tries to make it seem like he's bigger than the game. But even in a goofy interview about milk, the ghost of Kendrick looms over him. That's the real Drake on display, a man haunted by the one opponent he can't outrun. Sit through this interview for over an hour and you'll notice something chilling. The way Drake's thoughts keep circling back, over and over, until they twist into pure bitterness. He doesn't sound like the top dog in hip-hop. He sounds like a bitter ex who just can't accept the breakup. Every sentence drips with denial. Every tangent loops back to the same obsession. And while Kendrick keeps moving forward, stacking wins and dropping culture-shifting records, Drake sits stuck, replaying the same heartbreak in his head like a man who can't let go. And here's the wild part. I'm not exaggerating this. It's never been clearer, never been worse. When he's not babbling about milk, cup sizes, or whatever other nonsense clutters this interview, the real Drake comes out. And that version of him isn't just thinking about Kendrick, he's straight up fantasizing about him. Yes, fantasizing. Because that's how strange, how obsessive, and how revealing this whole thing gets. Drake tried to make this look like casual vibes, but the truth slipped out. Every word exposed his fixation. He's not battling Kendrick with bars. He's battling him in his mind. And he's losing that fight every single time. At this point, it's not even the fans, the media, or hip-hop Twitter connecting the dots back to Kendrick. It's Drake himself. Every move he makes, every line he drops, somehow boomerangs straight back to that beef. It's like he can't breathe without Kendrick's shadow hovering over him. Take this, for example. Drake casually refers to himself as Eurotrash. Now pause and remember. Kendrick Lamar already painted that exact picture years ago on those wild layered murals he spit about. The echoes are too loud to ignore. Drake thinks he's throwing out harmless lines, but the truth is, he's still orbiting around Kendrick's universe, recycling ideas, and indirectly feeding into the same narrative he swears he's above. When the supposed top rapper in the game starts quoting himself into Kendrick's playbook, it tells you one thing. The obsession has officially crossed into self-sabotage. Another lyric from Kendrick has aged like fine wine, almost like the man had a crystal ball when he wrote it. And that's the beauty of Kendrick. His bars don't just land in the moment, they come back years later to haunt his rivals. Drake is the perfect example of that haunting because he's slowly morphing into the exact caricature Kendrick once rapped about. It's almost comical, like Kendrick called his future before it even happened. But here's where things get messy. As this interview drags on, Drake finally works up the nerve to clap back. He tosses out not one, but two little disses aimed at Kendrick Lamar. And let's be real, that took more courage than he probably had in him. Because deep down, Drake is terrified of Kendrick. You can hear it in his voice, shaky confidence wrapped in arrogance, trying to mask the fear. So while it looks like he's striking back, it actually exposes the truth. Drake can't stop shadowboxing Kendrick, even when he knows he's outmatched. Drake didn't have to drop Kendrick's name. Everybody already knew exactly who he was aiming at. And instead of being slick with it, he went on this awkward tangent about making his grand return to LA one day. He bragged about finally doing US shows again after spending months hiding out in Europe, dodging the smoke like he was on the run. He tried to play it tough, saying he's not scared of LA, not worried about any warnings, not intimidated by the messages that have been floating around about him. But here's the thing. The words coming out of his mouth told one story, and his body language told another. You could see it plain as day. The tone wobbled, the demeanor shifted, and the mask slipped. Drake wanted to project this unbothered alpha energy, but instead he looked like a man trying to convince himself more than the audience. That's why the nickname sticks. He's not unfazed, he's not fearless. He's the courtside Karen, desperately acting unbothered while the fear peeks through every crack in the performance. Man, Drake needs to pack up the clown act already. Every time he tries to flex like a tough guy, it just makes the cracks in his armor even louder. And when Kendrick's name hangs in the air, you can literally see the fear twist him up, like the beef scarred him permanently. But the funniest meltdown came when he started explaining why his very first interview with Bobbi magically disappeared from the internet right after it dropped. Bobbi tossed out this light little theory that UMG yanked it because a Tyga song slipped into the background for a few seconds. Seems simple enough, right? But Drake couldn't leave it at that. No. He took the opening and spiraled into one of his trademark rants about labels, conspiracies, and his never-ending obsession with Not Like Us. Instead of brushing it off, he tried to spin it like there's some grand plot, some invisible hand working against him in this Kendrick beef. He acted like the universe itself is aligned to make him lose. And here's the wildest part. He pushed these theories with a straight face, as if he was dropping facts. Of course, his most loyal stans will eat it up. No questions asked. But to everyone else, it just screams desperation. Drake isn't analyzing, he's spiraling, and the delusion is on full display. So here's how Drake spun it. He tried to laugh it all off, but then slipped into another rant, claiming the labels are out here playing shadow games. According to him, they're boosting certain records, burying others, and basically moving pieces behind the scenes in ways he has no idea about. He framed it like the whole industry is some rigged casino tilted against him. But let's keep it real. At this point, the whole interview was a blur of strange energy. Between zoning out on 2K and trying not to cringe at every awkward line, half of the weird stuff Drake said didn't even stick. And that's telling. If this was supposed to be his big, real personality reveal, then all we really saw was a man fumbling, spiraling, and exposing sides of himself he probably thought came across as charming. So let's call it what it is. Drake presented himself as a 40-year-old superstar, stuck in the mindset of someone half his age, a man asking women bizarre questions about milk, while low-key fantasizing about Kendrick Lamar like he's still trying to prove himself in high school drama. If this was supposed to be the raw, unfiltered Drake, then the reality is even sadder than the act. And when you strip it all down, one truth screams louder than anything else. Drake's mind is locked on one man, 24/7. Kendrick Lamar. Every slip, every tangent, every rant somehow circles back to him. And if this was the image Drake and Bobbi wanted to create, congratulations, they nailed it. They made Drake look like a man obsessed, haunted, and unraveling. Because that's exactly how he came across. If Drake thought this interview was gonna paint him as the cool, laid-back, fun guy who vibes with a younger audience, then he miscalculated badly. The only people who will celebrate this are his most delusional fans, the ones who've fallen so deep down the rabbit hole with him that they'll cheer at anything he does. But outside of that echo chamber, he didn't gain points. He lost them. His name, his reputation, his value, they've all sunk to an even lower low. And what's wild is that this low is starting to feel like his new normal, and the contrast couldn't be clearer. While Drake's out here babbling about milk and dodging real conversations, other rappers are sitting down for powerful culture-shaping interviews. Joe Budden's platform has given us gems with Whale, JID, and The Clips. Elliott Wilson has been holding legendary conversations with artists who actually have something to say. These interviews feed the culture. They give us insight, history, and authenticity. Meanwhile, Drake's version of an interview feels like performance art gone wrong. Empty, awkward, and disconnected from the craft he claims to love. So let's call it what it is. Drake doesn't study rap battles for a living. He doesn't prepare, he doesn't sharpen his pen, and he damn sure doesn't want to sit across from anyone who could expose him. What he does instead is run to Bobbi Althoff, a safe space where he can play character, dodge accountability, and spin his brand of celebrity grifting. And at the end of it all, Drake showed us something ugly. He doesn't want to be the next Kendrick, Pac, or Biggie. He doesn't even want to stand in that echelon. What he wants is to be more like Logan Paul, an entertainer, not an artist. And if that's the legacy he's chasing, then hip-hop already lost him a long time ago. And here's the reality. Drake has been pushed out of every corner of hip-hop that actually matters. Instead of fighting his way back with bars or sitting down for real conversations, he's leaning into the one role people keep calling him, a grifter. And if that's the identity he wants to wear proudly, then fine. But let's be honest, it's a sad fall from grace. Remember what I told you to keep in mind earlier? This whole interview was his big chance to show us the real Drake. Well, congratulations. Because if this is the image he wanted people to walk away with, he nailed it. We saw a man dodging the culture, spinning wild theories, obsessing over Kendrick Lamar, and asking women weird questions about milk like he's trapped in his own sitcom. If that's the legacy he's choosing, then good luck. Because hip-hop already sees through the act. So now I gotta ask you, what do you think about this horrendous interview Drake just gave us? Do you think he's still obsessed with Kendrick Lamar? Do you buy into these clownish excuses he's been throwing around? Or do you think this was the moment where Drake's mask slipped completely and we finally saw him for who he is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to see what y'all have to say about it. And if you made it this far, you know the drill. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn those notifications on so you never miss when the drama breaks. I'll catch you on the next one. An entertainer, not an artist. And if that's the legacy he's chasing, then hip-hop already lost him a long time ago. And here's the reality. Drake has been pushed out of every corner of hip-hop that actually matters. Instead of fighting his way back with bars or sitting down for real conversations, he's leaning into the one role people keep calling him, a grifter. And if that's the identity he wants to wear proudly, then fine. But let's be honest, it's a sad fall from grace. Remember what I told you to keep in mind earlier? This whole interview was his big chance to show us the real Drake. Well, congratulations. Because if this is the image he wanted people to walk away with, he nailed it. We saw a man dodging the culture, spinning wild theories, obsessing over Kendrick Lamar, and asking women weird questions about milk like he's trapped in his own sitcom. If that's the legacy he's choosing, then good luck. Because hip-hop already sees through the act. So now I gotta ask you, what do you think about this horrendous interview Drake just gave us? Do you think he's still obsessed with Kendrick Lamar? Do you buy into these clownish excuses he's been throwing around? Or do you think this was the moment where Drake's mask slipped completely and we finally saw him for who he is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to see what y'all have to say about it. And if you made it this far, you know the drill. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn those notifications on so you never miss when the drama breaks. I'll catch you on the next one. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to see what y'all have to say about it. And if you made it this far, you know the drill. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and turn those notifications on so you never miss when the drama breaks. I'll catch you on the next one.